Okay, hi. So a lot of you guys have asked for a tutorial on how to isolate an image or clip out an image in Photoshop. I've done this before with an image on a plain background where it's really simple, and I wanted to go over and show you how to combine two images that are a little more complex. And I will upload these images um, to our file share so that you can actually do it with these images if you'd like to practice, or you can practice with any two images. But I'm going to go a little bit more in depth and show you how to combine and isolate images within Photoshop in this tutorial. So I'm going to start by screen sharing here. And I've selected this mermaid image and I've selected this ocean image. I thought these two would be just complex enough to give you the idea. And I've gone over this too, where a lot of times you guys can't use the magic wand just to get that background away. It's just far too complex and you're not going to get the look that you want. So the easiest way to do that when you have an image with a complex background is to use the pen tool. So first things first, I'm actually going to bring my two images into one. And you can do this by just going to duplicate layer and then moving it to the other image. And then you'll see when I click over here, it's actually in that image too. I'm going to put it in the middle. I'm going to zoom in. And using my pen tool, I'm just going to go around each shape as closely and as precisely as possible. And then if I didn't get quite precise enough, I can actually go in with the white selection, direct selection arrow, and I can move closer to that. Now you guys could always do this with the eraser tool, but the way I'm going to show you how to do it is non-destructive. Therefore, if you want to keep anything, like you decide that you maybe trimmed out a little bit too much, or you want to bring back something that you had brought in, then you can always go and fix it. When you use things like the eraser tool in Photoshop, you're always changing the pixels. So by using layer masks, like I'm going to show you how to do, it's non-destructive. You don't harm any pixels. They're always there for you if you want to go back and use them. So basically, as I'm going around, I'm clicking, I'm dragging, and I'm bringing it as close to the curves as possible. Now here it's a little pixelated. I didn't download a super high-res image. It's hard to see her hair, but I'm just gonna kind of fake it and decide where I think it should go, and I think it's going around here. And then she's got this crown on that's a bit complex. And to save time, I'm just actually gonna not follow that line precisely just yet. And it may not even matter because of the blue background behind her when I bring it in. I'm also just going to ignore this lock of hair that's flowing down for time. Go back to following the curves of her arm. Now, if I zoom out here, you'll see that she's on this rock. I'm not going to follow her body. I want to leave the rock in here. So I'm actually going to click back on my pen tool, make sure I've got the same path, and I'm going to trace around the rock. In this bottom area. So if I'm zoomed in so I can see, and then I want to move to a new spot, I hold down my space bar, it turns into this hand, and I can move it like this. And now I'm just following the edge. It doesn't need to be exact on the bottom either. And then I finally am meeting back up to where I started, and I close it. And if you look over here in paths, I have one complete path. Now, she also has these spaces between her arms, which I'm going to go ahead and do as well. So I'm going to just click and make a new shape inside here, following the curves of her body as precisely as possible and closing that shape. And same for this arm. And same here. Okay, so it's really tiny, but you can see in here that those shapes have actually been added to that path. If I zoom out, you'll see I have a path that completely encompasses what I'd like to save. And then what I do is I hold down Command and I click on that path, and you'll see that it turns into marching ants all the way around her. So I have her selected. And then what I do is come down here and I click on the layer mask and it deletes the background for me. So that is the trick. The fun thing is now, instead of just doing this with the eraser where I'm deleting the background and deleting pixels, so I can come in now and using my paintbrush, I can paint in spaces and refine what I'd like to keep and save by using the paintbrush on the layer mask. So if I zoom in here, where you see that I just kind of quickly clicked around the crown, I can actually paint that in using black and start deleting that around her. And I can refine it with the paintbrush. But say I mess up and I go too far, those pixels are still there, and I just paint it back in with white. So white is what you want to keep and black is what you want to delete, but the pixels are retained. And that gives you ultimate control. If you were to do this with the eraser tool, then it would be gone. And when you want to go back to your image or you need to back up, you wouldn't be able to do that. So then sometimes things just work better with the paintbrush too, because you can kind of, like these organic edges, I can just kind of dab around them to get a feel for that coral crown. Don't have to be super precise, or I can be as precise as I want. But the trick here is to get it to look like she's really belonging in this background and exists in this space. So you want to watch for contrast, and then we'll do things like fixing shadows and lighting to make her feel like she belongs in there. And right now you can tell that she just doesn't look like she fits in this space. It doesn't look real. It's clearly two photos photoshopped together. Let me zoom out. One thing I think I will work on to help her fit is perhaps scale, which I think she's scaled okay depending on where I set her. I'm going to put her right here under this light, and then I'm going to, you see I double clicked on my background layer, turn it into layer 0 so it's not the background, and I can duplicate it. And that way I can change things within this layer too, and I have that original background saved. So she's clipped out, she's existing in this space. She doesn't really look like she fits in there yet, but we're gonna work on that. One of the things that makes her stand out is that I did pick an image that's lit pretty well from the sunlight, and the light from the ocean is kind of diffused, but we still do have light coming in, so we can work with that. And then also the rock in general is just really harsh. So one thing you can do if you just feel like overall you need to refine those edges around what you clipped out, you can click on that layer mask again, your ants come back, and then you can go to Select, Modify, Contract, and you can bring it in maybe a pixel or two. So now everything's brought in a pixel, and then I can go to Select, Modify, Feather, and I can maybe even feather everything a pixel and soften that up. So then I go to select inverse, and then I can fill that in with the paint can using the black, and everything around her just has a little bit softer edge. So when you're using layer masks, you only use white or black, and you can use the paint can or the brush, and they both work the same way. So another thing I want to do is soften up this edge where the rock is landing. And I even want to go over here and probably make this plant look like it's on top, or they're being combined. So let me back up here. Using my history, I'm just going to back up because I got a little overzealous without planning that in. But I am still going to kind of soften my way around the rock with this brush, change my hardness down and the size of the brush up here. And I'm just going to soften that up. Get a little smaller. And maybe I even change the opacity. And I just kind of give it a little of that blue coming through. So see how it's already starting to look like it exists in this space a little bit more. There we go. So now I'm going to bring that layer that I just did back on top, and I'm going to add a mask here to this. And I'm going to start, because I just want this little plant right here, I'm just going to mask the whole thing. Then coming in with my white brush, I am going to color back in this little plant so that it looks like it goes on top of her. And then I'm going to adjust my opacity. Just kind of click around until I think I like the look of it. You can spend as much time or as little time as you want. It just depends. You can spend a lot of time working these edges and working this to make sure it looks like it fits in the space. Another thing I'm going to try is duplicating this layer one more time, bringing it to the top, and then using I just thought I would see if any of these seem to fit well. The soft light overlay seems to look nice, but they're still not doing quite what I want. So I'm going to leave the effect at normal, and I'm just going to bring the opacity down so that it gives her a little more of a feel that she's under that water. So I think that 40 is good, and then I can add another layer mask. And I can come in here, and using my brush, I can decide if there's certain pieces that I just want a little more vivid, like maybe her face. And I just can kind of dab that with the brush tool. Let me go down even a little bit less so that she's not too watery. We got a little bit of vivid color coming through, but she still looks like she exists in that space. So if you see here, it's just going really light, and I'm just kind of following some highlights on her around where the water is. So already from the beginning, she's looking like she belongs in there a little bit more. This isn't super clean, but it's effective, and I could spend more time working on those edges. I could pull a piece of coral from over here, duplicating this layer one more time, bringing it up, and then Which piece would look cool? Maybe something from over here. So again, I'm gonna mask it, color it all in. And then don't forget to change your opacity back if you're messing with your opacities. Yeah, I think this will actually give it a little bit more of an effect and sense of belonging within there. And again, you could really work these edges as much as you wanted to really make it feel like it belongs here. But for time purposes, I'm gonna leave it a little bit messy, but you get the idea. And then let's see, last thing I think I would probably do, let me go back to this image. I would definitely Google, if I were doing this for a final piece, some floating hair. So let's see here. You'll see I have my window open. See, dark hair, since she has dark hair. Don't quite see what I want. This hair might work. You can try just Googling it as well. Look. So I'm looking for an image that will be relatively close to her hair color and pretty easy to clip out. Just because I think that having her hair falling down isn't realistic and she doesn't look like she's fitting into the space. But I also didn't plan for this. I just thought it would look good as we went along. So I don't want to take too much time. So let's see. I think I will just go with this one and use these pieces. Oh, maybe this one. Okay, let me see if I can just pull this down to my desktop. All right, let's see what this does. We're just gonna play around. So again, drag this image in. Obviously it's way too large. It'd probably be closer to about right here. And I'm gonna pull it to the layer that's under with her. I'm gonna add another mask to it. And I'm gonna take my brush and just kind of paint around and eliminate things as I see fit. And you know what I'm even gonna do? I'm gonna put it behind her. Oops. And see, so the mistake I just made is common too. When I came back to paint on my layer mask, I actually am clicked, see this box right there? I'm clicked on the actual layer. So you wanna go to your history and undo and make sure I'm clicked on the mask when I paint. That way, if you click on here and you paint, it'll show up on the image like that. But if you're on the layer mask, that's when you're eliminating and erasing. So let's see here. I'm gonna come in and paint this. Let me zoom on in. Back to screen share. I had a little hiccup and I had to figure out what I did, which I just hit a wrong button and I wasn't painting on the right mask. So I'm just doing this really sloppy again. I think I'm even gonna go over here and try, oh, there we go. No, not quite. I thought maybe some of these would work. Yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna go with soft light and then go just dab around here. Dab some of this back in. I want the hard edges to go away, but it's okay if some of that remains. And then I'm gonna actually Command T, move this and shift this around and just move it so it looks like it could be part of her regular hair. And then when I got it where I want it, I'm gonna hit enter, delete this part. And then using levels, I'm actually going to make this a little bit darker. Delete that one, I didn't want that one on there. And then I'm gonna go back to her shoulder, and you can see that the pixels are kind of showing in, and I'm going to just soften this edge again. Back to the hair, and this is really almost like painting or drawing, where you just kind of have to feel it, decide what you think looks good. Oops, and again, I made that mistake drawing on the layer, not the layer mask, so let me back up. There we go. You'll see this is what I have so far. Clearly that hair doesn't belong to her, so now, but I'm pretty happy with the way everything else looks. So now I'm gonna do something. I'm going to do a key command where I combine all my visible layers. I'm gonna go Shift, Command, and E. Oh, that wasn't right. Cancel. There we go. Okay. Shift, Option, Command, and E. And it combines all of my layers for me that I have down here. All of these layers are still here. But then this layer, layer 3 that I have here, is a layer that's made of all the previous layers that I've already worked on. And now I'm going to come in, zoom in here, and using my clone and probably my healing tool a little bit, I'm going to make sure that everything really looks like it belongs in this space. So just going to clone some of this hair into each other. And then I'm going to adjust the opacity, and it's really just like painting, but I'm painting with pieces of other pixels so that it looks like it belongs. You want to watch highlights, you want to watch too many repetitive shapes. And you want to sample, like I'm sampling down here, so it's a little bit darker as it goes around this curve. I'm going to sample from here, give her a little bit of that highlight as it goes into her hair. And I can even sample from the ocean to kind of clean up the overall look of it. And when you use the clone tool, you click, you hold Option and you click where you want to sample from, and then you bring it over. So as you see, that extra little arrow up in there is where I'm sampling from and where I'm painting from using those pixels. So you want to make sure you're sampling from a space where you want those pixels to be there. I'm going to do the same thing down here to kind of blend this glow in a little bit. I think it looks good. It looks mysterious, mermaidy, if that's a word. But I just want to kind of add a little bit. And then I even think that some of this glow up here would add a nice effect and make this look more intentional. So I'm going to sample from this light area and add a few more little glowy spots just for fun. Okay. So there you have it. that would be my end result. It's not the cleanest result. Um, if I wasn't doing a tutorial and really spending time making this image the way I want, I would probably do a lot more work to clean it up. But I think you guys get the idea. I think that helps a lot. And I think that will help you guys moving forward when you're trying to combine images and click images or bring images together. So I will put the image of the mermaid and the image of the ocean up for you if you want to use those specific images. But again, these are tools you guys can use within any two images. If you're combining images, you can just pick any images and put them together. Just remember layer masks and pen tool and clone tool, non-destructive editing, so you can always go back. Okay, thanks.